Good afternoon, and welcome to the holiday edition of Good News Friday. I'm Mark Skorka, president of Opera America, coming to you from the Artist Kreinik Library at the National Opera Center. I'm glad you've joined us today to acknowledge the great work that's happening at companies large and small, among creators and performers, and the steps we're taking to keep opera moving forward. I also want to commend our members across the country who have succeeded in producing opera in all kinds of settings, following strict protocols. We all have to do our part to protect our neighbors and to keep ourselves safe, even as we bring life to life with performances of our companies. Today, we want to start with the IDEA Opera Residencies. As you may know, IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. The residencies are a new program that welcomes composers and librettists of color living in New York City into the opera field. Awardees receive $22,500 in direct grants, residencies at the Opera Center, mentorship, professional development opportunities, and promotional support. All this is made possible with the generous support of the Catherine S. and Axel G. Rosine Fund of the Sherman Foundation. The first ever IDEA Opera Residency Grant artists are composer Laura Jobin Acosta, librettist J. May Barizzo, and composer Tamar Kali Brown. Congratulations to all three creators. We'll introduce them to you more fully in the near future. The IDEA Opera Residencies and IDEA Opera Grants are part of our commitment to amplify the perspectives of BIPOC creators whose voices have been missing from the opera field and from the contemporary American opera repertoire. Today's first guest is part of last year's inaugural class of IDEA Opera Grant recipients, which support the work of BIPOC composer librettist teams. Each team receives an award of $12,500 toward workshops, readings, or other performance-based events, plus recordings of their work. The grants are funded through the generosity of the Charles and Cerise Jacobs Foundation. Now, please welcome Kui Dong, who's the composer of Hu Tong, which stands for Narrow Alley. Kui, welcome. So happy to have you with us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on being one of our award recipients, and we hope that it's going well for you.
Oh, it was our great honor to receive this, the first grant, IDEA grant. It's going great. It's helping me a lot, actually.
Oh, fantastic. Well, let me first ask you, how did you come to discover opera as a medium that you wanted to use to express yourself?
Well, I think as every composer, I mean, opera is an ultimate dream. Like you in your career, you want to at least write one. I mean, for me to, but on the other hand, it's my mother. My mother is a coloratura soprano, so I learned a lot of Western opera arias, like through her teaching voice studios and her performances. And then when I was in the conservatory, I learned quite a bit about the variety of Chinese opera. So the theatrical thing is very interesting to me. I mean, opera is a total experience.
And it's great that you heard your mother teach voice, because in a way, it taught you how the vocal instrument of opera singers actually works. It's not a keyboard, it's something else.
Yeah, it's really important. My mother has a variety of students ranging from baritone to high coloratura soprano. So I think my mind I have the imprint of her voice and her students' voice in me for a very long time. So I think this is kind of a natural thing for me to want to write
That's wonderful.
opera.
Now,
Yeah.
how did you come to meet your librettist partner, Monica Datta?
Through a mutual friend who actually wanted me to write an opera, and he, Paul Schick, and he became a partner with Monica Datta later. But at the time that nearly 6 years ago, he introduced Monica and I, and we met in New York at a cafeteria, and we talked about, okay, how about we make an opera? So that's we basically kind of created. I made some demands like a composer, like, okay, I want twins, I want children, I want a bird, a phoenix or bird, and I want a Norwegian sailor, and I want a French architect, and they're Chinese. I mean, we talk about this, but I made some demands, and she happily cooperated. And I also want a detective who plays violin, who doesn't sing.
So just tell us, what is Hutong about? The story or the background to the story.
Hutong, I think it's a chamber opera first. We want to start small. It's a comic slash fantasy opera, chamber opera that I think portrays the our modern society with a twist of bridging reality and the fantasy world. I guess it's about space, like communal space, and a group of elected international characters, as I mentioned, with a Feng Huang, the Chinese phoenix, living in that kind of endangered communal space, and dealing with issues that common issues of humanity, such as like a misunderstanding and misunderstanding for cultural things. And also I think it also investigate that the architect influences human relationships, and also the change of society in culture, technological changes that have effect to people. But all of that with a twist of intervention of a giant bird.
So you got your bird. You got what you asked for.
Yeah. Yes.
How has the Idea Opera Grant helped your work? What have you done with the support?
The support is tremendous help for us, because you know, the dream, composer has dreams, but to realize that dream is really, really difficult. Particularly you're dealing with a large setup, I mean, of people, a lot of people. So the Idea Grant helped us to move forward with the first workshop for the first select scenes. And we've done we did the first workshop with in collaboration with Other Minds Festival in San Francisco and Cinnabar Theater in Petaluma, California. So there are two organizations we're working with. And thanks to the grant, we're able to have a very professional recording, video recording of the first three themes, which is really, really important. And also, I think it's just the opportunity for me to learn as a composer. We live in a dream world, but in reality, the process of and the procedure of putting together such a, I mean, even this is a chamber opera, putting such a opera is a very complicated procedure.
Yeah.
I think that's what I learned the most, working with people and learning the each step, the procedure, what to do next. So we're hoping to having learned those lessons and to be much more prepared for the second workshop, which will be the rest of the opera.
That's just exactly why we make these grants and why we're so happy to hear about your progress and can't wait to see the first three scenes that you video recorded. But Kuei, we're going to go on to some other good news. We're going to bring you back for the quiz part of our program at the end. So thanks so much for being with us, and stay tuned. You'll be back.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of good news, there's a lot to talk about. We're happy to announce that Opera Conference 2021 will take place online again this year during the month of May. In 2020, 4 times the number of people who normally register for an annual conference tuned in for our online conference. So with the continued uncertainty about travel and hotel accommodations into the spring, and with this opportunity to reach more people, we are happy to go online again for 2021. Presentations, panels, group discussions will take place over the course of 3 weeks in May, We'll send specific dates so you can mark them on your calendar, but stay tuned again for Opera Conference 2021 in an online version. There is so much going on innovatively across the field, and I just wanted to mention a few of these. The opera by mail at Onsite Opera, opera by podcast at Experiments in Opera, opera ukulele jams at Hawaii Opera Theater, sold out drive-in of La Boheme at San Diego Opera, a rooftop holiday opera at Edmonton Opera, and Zoom opera caroling at Opera on Tap. The ingenuity is truly astonishing, and it just shows how creative our field is. I want to extend congratulations to the Odyssey Opera Chorus, Florentine Opera Chorus, and the Metropolitan Opera for their respective Grammy nominations in the Best Opera Recording, Best Engineered Album Classical, and Best Contemporary Classical Composition categories. And congratulations to Sanctuary Road by Paul Moravec and Mark Campbell, performed by the Oratorio Society of New York, which has been nominated for the Best Choral Performance. Jamie Barton, Julia Bullock, and Beth Morrison of Beth Morrison Projects have been selected as Musical America's Artists of the Year for 2021. They are, as Musical America rightly calls them, agents of change. Des Moines Metro Opera has chalked up its third Upper Midwest Emmy by winning this year's Arts Entertainment Division for Iowa's PBS broadcast of Des Moines Metro Opera Presents Bon Appetit. We want to say break a leg to countertenor John Holliday, who's advanced as one of the top 5 finalists on The Voice. He will also star in the digital commission for the Opera Philadelphia channel, Tyshawn Sori's Save the Boys, based on the poem by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. And finally, kudos to Perrin Leach, who's been named General Director of the Canadian Opera Company. Now, a feel-good story coming from Winnipeg. Dr. Douglas McEwen recently completed his 96th birthday challenge to walk 1 kilometer a day for 96 days to raise money for local arts organizations, including Manitoba Opera. An anonymous sponsor offered to donate $500 per kilometer that Dr. McEwen walked, and to double it if he took along a companion. So we're delighted that all of this worked out perfectly and that Dr. McEwen was able to raise over $124,000. And he's here with us today. Welcome, Dr. McEwen.
Good, how do you do?
And happy birthday, and congratulations on surpassing your goal and raising such an incredible amount of money for the arts and community. Where did this idea come from?
It came from a friend of mine who was a wealthy Canadian, and he wanted to do something that would help this in this terrible year. And he issued me a challenge. He said if I walked 1 kilometer a day up to my birthday on the 11th of November, he would give me $50,000 for a charity I named. Further, if I walked with a companion, he would give another $50,000, which is a total of $100,000. And I could name the charity. And I named the 4 arts groups: Manitoba Opera, Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, Manitoba Theatre Center, and Manitoba Ballet.
Incredible. And did you walk the 96 kilometers on consecutive days, even if it rained?
Yes, it started about the middle of May and I walked on consecutive days.
Okay.
Initially with family, but when my daughter announced it to the arts organization what was going to happen, and suddenly I was flooded with walkers. Everyone wanted to walk with me, and we had a grand time talking. It took about a half an hour to walk, and we talked about opera, we talked about symphony, we talked about ballet. We had a grand time.
Now, how have the performing arts played a role in your life? Have you always enjoyed the arts?
Oh, yes. I listened to Metropolitan Opera in high school. And when we came to live in Winnipeg, we had season tickets to the ballet, the symphony, the opera, and the theater center. And they all blend together in my life. And I probably hear an opera aria 1 or 2 a week. Just various things I go to or hear.
Wow. Well, I know that many people who are watching this are wondering what advice you have for them to make it to 96, able to walk 96 kilometers in support of the arts. What advice do you have for us, Doctor?
Okay.
What advice do you have?
What advice? Well, my advice is live a good life. I walk every day before I enter this challenge, and I try and read each day. And that's what every minute of my life is filled with something to do.
Well, that is just fantastic. And I think you have converted a whole new generation of walkers who want to do what you've done. Thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on your birthday. And we're going to wait to see what you do for your 97th. We're excited for you.
Thank you very much.
You take care, Doctor. Thank you. Last up on our good news list are Opera America's Next Stage grants, which we've brought back this year for the first time since 2001, thanks to the generous support of Gene Kaufman and Terry Eater Kaufman, along with the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. Next Stage grants support our professional company members in presenting second and subsequent productions of works that have already premiered but have not been performed sufficiently in relation to their true quality. It's an opportunity for companies to make adjustments and to refine the works for new audiences. The recipients of this round of Next Stage grants are Anchorage Opera for Missing by Brian Current and Marie Clemens. In Series for I Was Looking at the Ceiling and Then I Saw the Sky by John Adams and June Jordan. Knoxville Opera for Harriet Tubman, When I Crossed That Line to Freedom by Nkiro Okoye. Michigan Opera Theater for The Life and Times of Malcolm X by Anthony Davis and Talani Davis. Odyssey Opera for The Voyage of Edgar Allan Poe by Dominic Argento and Charles M. Nolte. Opera Parallel for Harvey Milk by Stuart Wallace and Michael Corey. And finally, Opera Saratoga for Sky on Swings by Lembit Beecher and Hannah Moskovich. We look forward to seeing new productions of these pieces, to discovering them all over again, and to moving them into the American opera canon. Joining us now to share some insights about the importance of second and subsequent productions are Peggy Menostra, publisher and Opera America's creative consultant, and Mark Adamo, composer and librettist known to so many of us. Welcome to both of you.
Great to be here. I'm so amazed at that story of Dr. McEwen.
Isn't it incredible? I know. And he looks fantastic.
Yes.
One of our key tenets at Opera America is to encourage the creation of an American opera repertoire. But something that people don't often talk about is what happens to a new work after it premieres, after it's been commissioned. That's where second and subsequent productions come in to really establish a piece. So Peggy, I wanted to start with you. As a publisher, as someone who works so closely with producers, what is the importance of second and subsequent productions?
Well, it's the big word is opportunity. It provides an opportunity to revisit the piece in a lot of different ways. It might be a new interpretation, seeing it through a different artistic team's eyes and thoughts, and different performers, different voices. It also gives the composer an opportunity to put post-premiere revisions into action if that opportunity hasn't come yet. Very often, and Mark will attest to this, the challenges of a piece, or the way things go in rehearsal, don't come forward until the rehearsal period, or even in front of an audience. And so sometimes you cannot make these changes until after the show has closed. And what it does is it gives it the opportunity to, as you said, Mark, become part of the repertoire. Another thing I like to think of with it is it's kind of the, well, if they can, we can opportunity for a piece too, because it might be a new production that works in smaller theaters, or it might be the opportunity for a shorter piece or a smaller orchestration. So it just gives it so much more opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Mark, you have so many works to your name, and some of them made it from the premiere right into the most performed list. Others of your works have taken a longer time for people to realize, how much they deserve to be performed. What is a second and subsequent production like for you as a composer? How do you take advantage of putting an opera back on its feet?
Well, it's um, in a certain way, even if you're not changing a note or a word, every new production is going to tell you more about how a piece can work. How you can have an excellent performer in the title role of something of one particular voice type, and then you cast it with a completely different voice type, and all sorts of different values start to come out of the performance. Uh, but mostly, I mean, just apart from the thrill of seeing different artists and different audiences embrace a piece that has actually not changed, it gives you an opportunity to see if after as Peggy has noted, the crush of the premiere, if after all the dust has settled, if there is something else to another opportunity to be derived from it. When I found this actually with a production of my fourth opera, The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which I had directed in Boulder. And it was really, I had realized that with a new approach, for example, collapsing a chorus into an ensemble, suddenly all sorts of things that you thought were in the writing, but somehow did not come out in the initial performance, you were rather bewildered as to why. Suddenly you realize, oh, well, this is why, because what you thought would be best put in the voices of people framing the drama or actually belong in the drama.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very exciting to have that.
Yeah, so discoveries like that occur when you have another chance to put the opera back on its feet. Yes. Peggy, we've been in this 10-month now hiatus with more months to come. But do you still see a whole lot of creative fervor going on behind the scenes? Are you looking forward to getting out of this pandemic to see what bursts forth creatively?
Both. There's a lot going on, a lot of very quick commissioning going on, and quick new productions kind of burgeoning onto screens as opposed to stages. But we're all very anxious to get back into theaters and to hear the live voices. And live orchestras or ensembles. It's greatly missed, and the composers, so many things have been put on hold because the premieres maybe could have happened, but they would have been too compromised, because of the number of musicians in the pit or the number of people on the stage. Despite the fact of being able to create new things specifically for this period, we're all looking forward to the works that have kind of had to just sit quietly and wait.
Sure, sure. Now, Mark, since we're at the holidays, tell us about Becoming Santa Claus. I saw the production at its premiere and enjoyed it tremendously. What inspired you to create a Christmas opera?
Well, I'd always had it in the back of my head, actually, partly because quick, I hope funny story. When I was at residence in New York City Opera, we were preparing a really wonderful production of Hansel and Gretel, which, when you think about it, is a rather grisly story to present to children, particularly at the holidays. And yet it became, our holiday tradition. And I asked Paul why that was, and he said, well, the ballet theater has the Nutcracker, but this has become what it's become. And I later learned historically that it was actually presented on Christmas Eve. There are any number of historical reasons for that. But I thought, I wonder if there would be a way to write something that had kind of the glamour and the sense of a holiday occasion that the Nutcracker is, and that would also bring all sorts of audiences, but particularly young audiences, to opera through the Christmas lens. I mean, there's so many stories of dancers who didn't know anything about the ballet, but grandmother, took him or her to the ballet because it was Christmas, and suddenly the world of dance opened. And the other thing I thought was, could you do something that was not only sort of keyed to the season, but could it be about Christmas in some way? And somehow I just got the idea, what if the young Santa Claus was the original, what did you get me, Christmas brat? And I sort of wrote that down in that file that everybody keeps as operas that I might do at one point. And then the other thing that, as randomly was thinking about this, I thought, I wonder if you could make a kind of elfin coloratura world, some kind of rather elaborate vocal signature for these uncanny figures, which would give me an opportunity to write consistently a kind of vocal filigree that I never had that would make sense with these otherworldly figures. And then really that's as much as I had until, no, there was one third thing. I thought, I wonder if there's some way to kind of crash the story of the Magi into the Santa Claus myth. Could you do a kind of secular nativity? And so I had no idea how that would work out. And then I was in Dallas because Sasha Cook was preparing the role of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And I had met Keith Cerny, who was then leading the company. And I didn't really know anything about the company, but I had heard great things about it. And we met and we got along like a house of fire and we talked as one does. And he said, do you have anything that you're thinking of, after this piece? And I said exactly what I told you. I had this very half-baked idea of, elves and the Magi and the Nativity and coloratura. And he said, that sounds great. Why don't you, when the show is open, let's talk about it. And that became...
Wonderful. What a great story. Because I enjoyed it tremendously and I hope to see it again.
Thank you, me too.
Yeah, I'm sure. A second and subsequent production. Oh,
sorry. I think one thing about it, because there was a DVD of it, I think the one thing that actually, the show looks a lot more elaborate and expensive than it actually is. It's actually a relatively small show, but there was a troupe of dancers that we came in, and there's a whole troupe of handbell players, which are not, which are generally volunteer, but the DVD, I think, made it look like War and Peace in a certain way, which was lovely. It's the most luxurious production you could possibly imagine. But I've spoken with a number of producers who said, we couldn't possibly afford it. It's like, actually, you can. I just wanted to get that word out.
Right. Hint, hint, hint. Good for you. Good for you. So with that, let's get back to our closing game here. Quay, if you can rejoin us, we're going to look at some holiday trivia. Now, as we always do, I'm going to ask a question, and it's going to be a multiple choice question with 3 possible answers. On the paper you have with your nice pens, write down A, B, or C, and when I ask for you to show your answers, just hold them right up to the camera so everyone can see them, okay? So question number 1, and if you're watching, of course, you can put your answers into the chat so we can see how many of you get the right answer. Did you know that December 25th is a significant day both in opera and broadcasting history? The first opera to be transmitted on the radio, aired from the Metropolitan Opera, aired on December 25th of 1931. What opera from the Met was first broadcast on Christmas Eve, 1931? Was it Rimsky-Korsakov's Christmas Eve, Strauss's Die Fledermaus, or Humperdinck's Hansel und Gretel?
Oops.
I'm going to guess.
I don't.
Is that possible?
CC, and I would have guessed Strauss's Die Fledermaus, but the right answer is Hansel and Gretel. It was the first opera transmitted live from the Met, and surprisingly, and in the theater, it was followed by Pagliacci. It was a double bill, Hansel and Gretel and Pagliacci, which is a kind of weird double bill for Christmas Eve, where you have a gruesome story about children who are baked and then a clown who kills everybody. So yeah, Christmas Eve. Question number 2. Giancarlo Menotti was commissioned to write the first opera specifically composed for television. Amal and the Night Visitors, inspired by Hieronymus Bosch's painting The Adoration of the Magi, was premiered in a live broadcast in 1951. Which network had this visionary idea? Was it ABC, MTV, or NBC? 2 letter C's and a letter A. I would have gone with ABC myself, but it is in fact NBC. Although I thought for a while about MTV, but it just wasn't around at the time.
I was all wrong.
No, you don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm voting with you. Letter, now what's interesting about the broadcast was it was carried by 35 NBC affiliates, coast to coast, the largest network hookup for an opera broadcast to that date, and an estimated 5 million people saw the broadcast. Really remarkable. Question number 3. Holidays involve carols, singing, and choruses. We can all hum a bit of the Alleluia chorus, at least the soprano line, from Handel's Messiah, but that's not the only winter celebration Handel set to song. Which of these is another classic Handel vocal work? So is it Solstice Music, Judas Maccabeus, or Ode for New Year's Day? Which is Handel?
No, I think
It is letter B, Judas
It
Maccabeus.
is?
Yes. About the Hanukkah story in 1746. He wrote it 5 years after the premiere of Messiah. It's not as well known as Messiah, but it's full of rousing moments and stunning choral passages, and it's the Hanukkah story. So our fourth question, what is a holiday party without a toast? Opera is full of large parties with huge choruses, toasting and singing, but it isn't exactly with hundreds of glasses of actual champagne. It wouldn't be right to bring them on stage. It would be in the middle of a performance, you can have liquor on stage. So what is the most common solution to this how do you do a toast dilemma? Is it using painted champagne glasses, using ginger ale instead of champagne, or using sparkling apple cider? What do they do on stage through toasts? All of you, unanimous, painted champagne glasses. And in fact, that's the answer. Sweet or syrupy drinks can cause phlegm, which affects vocal performance, what some people call frog throat. And of course, singers spill things on stage and make a mess. So with the depth of 40 feet from across the pit to the audience and stage lighting, the most common solution is in fact to use painted glasses. It cuts down on stage mess and it keeps everybody from frog throat. So you're all winners. I declare you for the holidays, all winners. Really appreciate your playing along. Thank you, Quay, Peggy, and Mark for inspiring all of us. This is our last Good News Friday for a while, and we hope the series has kept you informed about the achievements of our members and you've had some fun along the way. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you have some relaxation and some safe time with friends and family during the holidays. And I don't want to get emotional at the end of this difficult year, but thank you for helping us make the opera community even stronger through the challenges of 2020. All of us at Opera America wish you a healthy 2021 filled with lots of live performances. Thanks again,